Hey everybody, Dr. Maggie at Dr. Maggie Therapy here. That's Margaret Beyer, PhD, LMFT. And we are going to talk today about some of the struggles that we have to go through in life. Before I get into it, please hit like and subscribe and share this with anyone you know that might be going through a particular struggle, or anyone you know who might be wanting to help someone going through a struggle. For those of you who don't know, I have a little 5-acre homestead where I raise goats. I have horses and ducks and geese and chickens and a few odds and ends and animals. And we actually wrangled a couple of rat snakes out of the hen house the other day because I was not getting nearly as many eggs as they were. Anyway, my granddaughter and I decided to incubate some eggs. So we had a dozen eggs in the incubator for 30 days. We would candle them, check them to see how they were doing. We would make sure that the humidity and the temperature was absolutely right. We would turn them a couple of times a day. We were always making sure that things were just perfect. When it got closer to time for hatching, we sprayed them with a mist of water to make sure that to help soften the shells, to help the little hatchlings break out of their shells. And then they started pipping. We had the first one pipped, which is just a little hole in the shell, and we could hear it peeping. And so that meant the beginning of its hatching. It hatched in the middle of the night, and so we kind of missed the big event on that one. The second one that hatched came a little bit later in that next morning, and the same thing, we didn't get to see the full event. We missed it by about 15 minutes and watched this little thing come out. And then the third one, we watched the entire process. We saw the pipping, it cracked the egg. We saw it rocking and moving, and it looked like as the eggshell was breaking open, it was up against the wall of the incubator. So I moved the egg into the middle of the incubator so that it would be able to push out of its shell and not up against the wall of the incubator. And we watched some more, and finally we were just giving up, and then a little bit more opened up and a little bit more came out, and now you could see the little head of this little gosling, and the gosling is just tired and just kind of laying there. And I'm like, okay, is it breathing? It just pushed out of, just all we got now is a head. We don't even have his little shoulders yet. And so he's pushing and pushing, and my granddaughter had already seen me move the egg into the middle of the incubator, and she wanted me to do more. And I said, no, baby, we need to leave it alone. We have to let it work its way out. That's how he gets stronger. He has to fight his way out of this shell. And so we would watch it. And at one point I thought, well, maybe I'll help him a little bit. So I'm going back on what I said, right? So I reached in and I peeled back just one little bitty corner of the shell just to open it up so maybe he could get his shoulders through. Imagine, if you will, a human infant being stuck in the birth canal. After a while, the doctor says, okay, let me help you with these shoulders here. So opened it up just a little bit, closed the incubator back up to watch some more, and we're watching and watching, and this little guy keeps pushing and pushing and then just collapsing in exhaustion. I'm not sure how long this process was, but it was a couple of hours at least. So it was, we were getting exhausted just watching this little guy. And so I'm like, he's almost there. And I finally said, I got up, I left the room, and a few moments later, my granddaughter comes running into me, and she says, I helped him out. And I'm like, oh no, what'd she do? Now my granddaughter's 6 years old, got it? So I said, well, what happened? Is he okay? Oh yeah, he's fine. I went back and we looked and there it was. She handed me his shell. She said, all I did, he couldn't get out. So I just held the shell and he crawled out. So she didn't try to pull him out, which was my fear. And she didn't try to break the shell off of him, which was another fear. She simply held the shell so he could finish crawling out. Unfortunately, I did not get that part of the video. I got the rest and I'm sharing. But I wanted to think about that, life lesson for both of us. I'm telling her, let him be. He has to struggle. He has to work to get out of this shell. He has to do that. Even though he's tired, he's exhausted, he needs the struggle. The struggle makes him stronger. That's a line out of Nietzsche, right? That which doesn't kill us makes us stronger. But she also saw something, that a little bit of a hand, he still struggled out. He still did the work, but she held him firm so that he could do it. So just remember, when you are struggling, you are getting stronger and you will get through it. And we can all do it together. Catch you next time. Bye.